Unveiling the miraculous journey of the 12 tribes of Israel, God's divine plan discovered. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, while the shadows lengthened over Canaan and the stars glittered with ancient promises, Jacob, the patriarch, summoned his 12 sons beneath the vastness of the night sky near the fields of Hebron. The air thrummed with anticipation as each son gathered, the weight of their father's call upon them. The tents, long worn by time, held echoes of shared laughter, fierce rivalries, and the raw passion of love that sprawled like the constellations above. Jacob, aged and weary, settled into his place among them. He looked into each son's eyes, where memories swirled. Reuben, the firstborn, who never fully lived up to his birthright. Simeon and Levi, whose fury once ignited a dark chapter of vengeance. Judah, who would carry a royal lineage. His heart swelled with both pride and sorrow. The time had come, the sacred moment when he would impart divine prophecies and blessings designed by God that would ripple across generations, shaping their very destinies. Gather close, Jacob's voice rose above the whispering winds, laden with spirituality. You are the sons of Israel, chosen to fulfill the covenant made with our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and me. He began with Reuben, speaking of strength and the turbulent waters of his future, encapsulating the essence of a man who would carry the burden of his failings. The words floated into the still night, anointed with divine purpose, striking chords deep within their souls. As he continued, a palpable tension arose among the brothers. With each prophetic utterance, Simeon and Levi are instruments of strife. The wild dynamism of their past conflicts clashed against the looming shadows of an uncertain future. Memories unlocked, discussions of jealousy around the favored coat of many colors, and glimpses of betrayal provided a sobering backdrop. Yet, amid the unease, each blessing also carried the promise of hope, rooted in God's unchanging nature. Then came the prophecy of the famine that would sweep over the land, chilling the air. A solemn realization gripped their hearts. The mention of Egypt unveiled conflicting emotions, a land that promised nourishment yet hinted at trials yet unseen. Would they become sojourners in a foreign land? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful stories from Scripture. Hit the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through the story is blessing you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I am always amazed by how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Days passed, and in the dim light of their dwelling, fear coiled tightly around their hearts. The news of the famine reached them like a sudden storm. They must now journey to Egypt, a land bred with uncertainty, where their forefathers had once thrived but now loomed as a shifting reflection of possible enslavement. The prospect was dire yet unavoidable, a clash of preservation against the potential of bondage. As they took their first steps into Egypt, a land of plenty, their vulnerability sat heavy upon their shoulders, a reminder that their legacy was intertwined with God's promises. Jacob's blessings lingered in their minds, igniting a flicker of faith amidst the daunting reality of their plight. With cries directed towards heaven, they clung to the hope that their God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, would remember his covenant and deliver them once again. But even in the wilderness beyond, cries would echo through generations. God heard the suffering of his people, the groans of bondage issuing forth like a haunting refrain. And in the depths of despair, appearing from a burning bush, the divine voice called to a shepherd named Moses, not merely to a man, but to the very essence of liberation destined to unfold amidst the turmoil. With the stage set upon the crimson backdrop of trials, the question lingers, will God fulfill his promise amidst the shadows of uncertainty? The courageous saga of the 12 tribes has just begun, awaiting the marvelous unfolding of his miraculous plan. The brothers, unified by the weight of their pilgrimage, crossed the threshold of the land of Egypt, their hearts beating in rhythm with both trepidation and anticipation. Joseph, the favored son, had been lost to them in body and spirit, yet in this land so grand, they would soon learn of the purposes of God that soared beyond their sorrow. As they journeyed deeper into Egypt, the desert winds whispered the names of their ancestors, filling their souls with a mix of nostalgia and survival. Arriving at the storied gates of Pharaoh's granaries, they beheld towering structures that loomed like sentinels against the twilight sky, filled with provisions that promised life amidst the desolation of the famine. Yet, how could their hearts not tremble at being known as strangers within this mighty empire? They approached the officials with anxious hearts, confessions upon their lips as brothers, their past traumas woven into the very fabric of their being. We are here as strangers, seeking grain for the sake of our lives. Upon hearing their plea, the appointed steward led them without delay to the hall of Pharaoh, where echoes of authority resonated like thunderclaps through the ornate columns. Awaiting them in the grand chamber was a man whose countenance struck both reverence and fear. Unbeknownst to them, this was Joseph, now dressed in the royal vestments of a high official, adorned with wisdom gleaned through years of suffering and divine revelation. As the brothers stood before him, feelings of guilt and shame clawed at their hearts. In despair, they could hardly bear to meet his gaze. Joseph's eyes, however, held an uncanny light, revealing a depth of understanding as he recognized them despite the years that had drawn them far apart. "You are spies," he proclaimed, his voice steady but his heart conflicted, feeding into their uncertainty. "You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They fell to the ground in reverence, invoking the Lord alongside their confessions. "Nay, my Lord. We are but your servants. We come from the land of Canaan to purchase food," they implored, recounting their family lineage, their father Jacob, and the youngest among them, Benjamin, who remained at home. Understanding welled up in Joseph. This was an opportunity for reconciliation, yet wisdom whispered caution, divine wisdom that mandated the unfolding of God's plan. He tasked them to prove their integrity, suggesting they return home and bring forth their younger brother, a signal of their commitment to their truth. With heavy hearts, they left Joseph's presence, burdened by uncertainty, yet unknowingly cloaked in God's providence. As they journeyed back towards their homeland, the weight of their secret hung heavily within them. Their hearts echoed with memories of treachery and remorse, a realization that would drive them to their knees before God. How would they convince Jacob to let go of Benjamin, the last remnant of his beloved Rachel? Back in Canaan, as the famine raged on, the brothers returned with grain but also with the command to bring Benjamin. Jacob, torn between love for his sons and deep fear of losing another child, lamented at their plight. "You have bereaved me of my children," he cried, "and now you seek to take the last." Thus, with the bitter winds of fate howling, the stage was set for divine reckoning, a reckoning that would unveil the threads of grace woven through despair. Yet above all rested the sovereign plan of God, whispering through the ages, what will come of the family of Israel, when yet again in the land of promise they fight against the forces of darkness. The hour is near for the tapestry of redemption to unfold, revealing that even in trials, my faithfulness endures. The agonizing days passed, each one filled with desperate prayers and fervent pleas. Jacob's heart was gripped by fear as he contemplated sending Benjamin into the land of Egypt, a place fraught with uncertainty and peril. The famine kept tightening its cruel grip upon them, and the dwindling provisions whispered of a relentless hunger that threatened their very lives. One night, as the sun set and shadows danced upon the walls of his tent, Jacob gathered his sons. The weight of authority was visible upon his brow, and the dim light flickered in his eyes, reflecting the inner turmoil of a father caught between hope and despair. "You must return," he said with a tremble in his voice. "You must take Benjamin with you, or we shall all perish. I cannot bear this burden alone." His heart was torn, yet comprehension of divine providence was dawning as he spoke. The brothers exchanged uncertain glances, burdened by the memory of what they had done to their favored brother, Joseph. "Our brother's life would soon be cast into jeopardy, and our father's heart would break if harm were to come upon Benjamin," they whispered to one another in hushed tones. Reuben, filled with determination, raised his voice. "I will be responsible for him. If I do not return him safely, let my own sons perish." The pain of regret etched deep upon his face, and the reminder that the blood of Joseph weighed heavy upon them compelled him to act, and thus, after much lamentation, Jacob, albeit reluctantly, agreed. The dawn broke upon the horizon as they prepared to embark on the fateful journey to Egypt once more, hearts laden yet edged with the flicker of hope, a hope rooted in God's promises, though they could not yet see the flicker illuminated by heaven's grace. As they arrived at the palace once again, fear tightened their chests. They stood before Joseph, dressed in splendor and authority, and in that moment, his heart quivered with recognition. The brothers did not yet know his identity, but the lordship of Joseph was unmistakable, and their guilt radiated through every fiber of their beings. "Have you brought your younger brother?" Joseph inquired, maintaining the guise of a stern leader. The men, shaken to their core, nodded. Benjamin's entrance brought a palpable silence over the room, tension intertwining with trepidation. Joseph's eyes softened, yet his resolve remained firm. "I will provide for you," he declared, "but first, you must remain here, and your brother will dine with me." He prepared a feast, a miraculous display of generosity amidst their dire need, not revealing the depth of his intent. The brothers were astonished, their spirits lifted momentarily as they were honored guests at Joseph's table. Beneath the feasting and rejoicing, however, God's greater plan embarked upon the unfolding. Joseph, recognizing the transformation his brothers had undergone, was stirred by emotions long buried beneath years of alienation. When he saw Benjamin, an ache resounded in his heart, a longing for his brother and a desire to extend forgiveness. As the evening drew to a close, Joseph withdrew in solitude, tears spilling forth like a river unrestrained. His heart cried out within him, "How shall I reveal my true self? How shall I complete the work that was begun in me through suffering?" The brothers slept at night with hope mingled with uncertainty. Unbeknownst to them, their fate rested upon a divine tapestry, intricately woven by the hand of the Almighty. The dawn would bring the unmasking of Joseph's identity, and with it, the revelation of God's sovereign plan for the nation of Israel. Grace upon grace intertwined with the salvation of a lineage. Yet the question lingered like a fragrant offering rising to heaven: what awaits the sons of Israel as they step into greater trials, and how shall unity flourish from the ashes of betrayal? The hour drew near when God's purpose would echo through generations, a reminder that even woven through heartache, His faithfulness knows no boundaries. As morning's light broke upon the land, it illuminated the chambers of Joseph's palace with a golden hue, reflecting the weight of revelation that lay ahead. The brothers awoke, their hearts racing with uncertainty. Benjamin, the littlest of them, had been pulled ever closer into the labyrinth of their past transgressions. Tremors of fear and hope danced within them, a conflict seen in their eyes. Joseph returned to the gathering, his demeanor resolute yet tender. "You must understand," he said, his voice carrying authority yet resonating with a hint of longing, "I have prepared a test for you. To this end, let not your hearts be troubled, for I seek to uncover what lies within your souls." The brothers exchanged anxious whispers, each one haunted by visions of their past and the betrayal they had inflicted upon their brother. Joseph commanded the steward to fill their bags with provisions but discreetly instructed him to place his silver cup in Benjamin's sack, a cunning ploy designed to reveal the hearts that had once hardened. The brothers set forth on their journey home, their spirits lightened by provisions and a flicker of simply without knowing the greater storm that awaited them. Yet, as they strode away, the steward chased after them, accusing them of theft. Their hearts sank as they were brought back, fear gripping them like shackles. "Whoever is found with the cup shall be my servant," the steward declared, searching each bag one by one. The tension escalated, each heartbeat echoed the weight of fate, and as they found the cup in Benjamin's sack, despair enveloped them. "What have we done to deserve this?" Judah cried, his voice filled with anguish. "Take me instead. For I cannot bear to see our father grieve once more." The bond of brotherhood swelled within them, the threads of love woven with guilt and responsibility now more profound than ever. Joseph could no longer contain the tempest within him. He dismissed his attendants and urged his brothers to come close. "I am Joseph, your brother whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be distressed, for God has sent me before you to preserve life." These words struck like thunder against the hearts of his brothers, an overwhelming wave of fear mixed with relief crashed upon them. "You see," Joseph continued, "it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord over all his house." In that moment, the shackles of shame began to loosen. Joseph wept, the tears mingling with the laughter and cries of his brothers. "Bring our father here," he declared, "for there will be no more famine. The warehouse of Egypt is great, and you shall be nourished." Thus, Joseph embraced his brothers, each reluctant hand accepting his forgiveness, and in that embrace, the seeds of transformation began to blossom. "A greater plan is in motion," he proclaimed, acknowledging the divine hand that weaves through trials. As the brothers returned to their father, laden with good news, Jacob's sorrow transformed into wonder. "Is it true?" he thought, as he received the news of his beloved son alive, cradled by the very hands of divine providence. And so, as they journeyed back to Egypt, a sacred fervor ignited within them, conjuring hope from despair. "Indeed," thought Jacob, "this is more than mere survival. It is the fulfillment of God's promise that through my lineage, nations will rise." The earth sighed in anticipation as the narrative continued. The moment had come when God would manifest His glory through brokenness, revealing that even through our trials, He is crafting a lineage that will bear His name forever. As the brothers journeyed back to their father, the air was thick with the scent of reunion and the fragrance of hope. Driven by the promises spoken in the palace, their hearts swelled with both trepidation and joy. They relayed the wondrous tale of Joseph's rise, detailing the favor he found in the eyes of Pharaoh and the abundant provisions stored for the years of famine. Reuben looked upon his brothers, his face a mask of contemplation. "What shall we say to our father when we return?" he asked. "For we have caused great sorrow to him with our past sins, and now we must bring him back the son he thought lost." Judah, whose heart blazed with newfound fervor, replied, "We shall speak truthfully, for it is through truth that fear is cast away. He has embraced us with grace, surely our father must hear of such mercy." With their minds set, they hastened their steps, eager to share the divine revelation that unfolded in Joseph's chamber. Each brooding thought of anguish began to draw light, as if God was breaking through all patterns of despair. In the distance, they could see the familiar terrain of Canaan. The landscape spoke of memories long etched in their hearts, both sweet and bitter days of laughter under the open sky, yet marred by betrayal and guilt. As they approached their homeland, the echoes of their father's voice from yesteryears tugged at their souls when at last they beheld Jacob. He sat by the old oak tree, the sun setting behind it, casting shadows that danced to the rhythm of time. The note of joy filled their hearts while a somber weight of confession lingered. "Father," Benjamin called, unable to contain his excitement. "Joseph lives. He is ruler over all the land of Egypt." Jacob trembled at the sound of Benjamin's voice, a mix of astonishment and disbelief pouring over him. "Is this truth?" he whispered, clutching his breast. "For I had mourned him, believing him dead, and now, you bring me this news." "It is true," cried Judah, stepping forward. "We have returned with provisions, and he commanded us to bring you to him. His heart is softened, and he desires to see you once more. Do not fear, the Lord has orchestrated these events." As his sons shared the wondrous deeds of Joseph, Jacob's heart, once heavy with sorrow, began to swell with hope. my son lives," he exclaimed, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Let us prepare, for I shall see him, and once more my heart shall rejoice." They gathered their possessions, laden with food and gifts from Joseph, but more importantly, laden with the promise of restoration. Their journey now had dual purpose, a pilgrimage not just of flesh and goods but of the spirit toward healing. As the caravan set forth toward Egypt, a deep silence fell upon them, reverent and sacred, like the pause before a great unveiling. Yet, unbeknownst to them, the plan of God stretched much further than this reunion. For in the days ahead, as they crossed the borders of Egypt anew, a promise recalled by their forefather Abraham would soon emerge into full view. "In you shall all nations of the earth be blessed," Genesis 12 verse 3. Little did they know, their legacy was being woven into a tapestry far beyond their understanding, and unfolding that would echo through generations, revealing that through adversity, God was setting the stage for something monumental, a deliverance not just for the house of Jacob, but for all of creation. And at the heart of their journey, a greater truth would soon be unveiled. The moment had come for God's promise to rise forth, as he had ordained long ago, leading them toward the destiny yet to be discovered. As the caravan drew closer to the land of Egypt, the air shimmered with anticipation, heavy with the weight of past sorrows now being eclipsed by the promise of restoration. Jacob, filled with fervor, called for the leaders among his sons, saying, "Gather the household, that we may honor the Lord before we embark upon our journey." The family assembled, a myriad of hearts united in purpose. They offered prayers of thanksgiving, lifting their voices toward heaven, acknowledging the hand of God that had orchestrated this moment. "Blessed be the Lord, who has not forsaken us in our troubles and has restored unto us our son, Joseph," Jacob proclaimed, tears of joy mingling with the dust of the earth. "Let us take with us gifts for the ruler of Egypt," suggested Reuben, his voice steady. "Let us offer fine garments, spices, and balm gifts fit for one who has shown us such grace." The brothers nodded in agreement, inspired by the desire to express their gratitude and reverence to Joseph, and so, with their hearts hopeful and their arms filled with treasures, they began their pilgrimage. The landscape changed as they traversed the wilderness, a place dark and silent, yet echoing with the promise of new beginnings. Each brother shared stories of their father's past, recalling the blessings bestowed upon their forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and the greatness that awaited their lineage. The sun gleamed overhead as they crossed the border into Egypt, and soon began to question their worthiness before such a powerful ruler. "What shall we say on our arrival?" pondered Simeon, his brow furrowed with concern. "Will he remember our deeds against him?" Judah interjected, his voice imbued with assurance, "We must stand firm in the truth of our actions, for the Lord himself has redeemed us. Let us not forget his promise that we, though unworthy, serve a God who forgives." Their hearts strengthened by faith, they reached the gates of the city, their spirits buoyed by the unseen hand of providence, weaving together the strands of their destinies. As they approached Joseph's house, a servant met them, eyes wide with intrigue. "The ruler has been expecting you," the servant declared, leading them through lavish corridors adorned with Egyptian splendor. They passed by treasures beyond their imagining, glistening gold, intricate tapestries, and statues that whispered of Egypt's stature. As they entered the grand hall, Joseph appeared before his brethren, resplendent in garments of fine linen, and a crown that spoke of authority. His countenance radiated authority yet bore the tenderness of homecoming. The brothers, faces a mixture of awe and fear, were momentarily dumbfounded. "Brothers," Joseph spoke, a warmth encasing his words, "do not be anxious, for it is by divine design that you stand here today. God sent me before you, to preserve life." The room fell silent, the gravity of his words began to settle like a heavy cloak around them. His heart stirred, acknowledging the painful severance of their past. Joseph continued, "I have seen your sincerity, and my heart is for reunion, not punishment." A surge of relief washed over the brothers as the past's darkness began to dissolve in the light of Joseph's grace. They spoke tremulously of their father, and Joseph, overwhelmed with compassion, made ready to prepare a feast in their honor. Together, they rejoiced, the echoes of laughter mingling with tears, as reconciliation reached into the depths of their weary hearts. Yet beyond their joy, a deeper revelation lingered, as a divine orchestration began to unfold, a plan that spoke of trials yet to come, and a deliverance that the world had not yet seen. At that moment, heaven whispered a mystery: "You are gathered not just for reunion, but for the salvation of nations. The hour of divine purpose is upon you." How wide and unfathomable are the ways of the Almighty, who leads his chosen through valleys of despair into the light of promise fulfilled. As the sumptuous feast commenced, Joseph commanded that the tables be laden with food, and his kitchen provided dishes from the riches of Egypt. The aroma of roasted lamb and freshly baked bread filled the air, weaving a tapestry of comfort amid the tensions that lay heavy in the hearts of his brothers. As they dined, Joseph's eyes danced with joy, for the reunion was as a balm to his soul. He sought to observe the character of his brothers, watching carefully as they responded to this unexpected grace. Their tables turned from the starkness of famine to the abundance of blessing, yet within him stirred the knowledge of trials that awaited. "Let us speak freely," Joseph proposed, his voice resonating with authority but filled with an undertone of gentleness. "What say you of our father, Jacob? Is he still alive, that righteous man who bears the weight of our house?" His gaze bore into their hearts, seeking the truth of their souls. "Your servant, our father, still lives," replied Judah, his voice breaking slightly under the weight of emotion. "His heart is still heavy, mourning for your loss, though we have assured him of your well-being." At this declaration, Joseph could contain the yearning no longer. He rose suddenly from the table, his spirit overwhelmed by the swell of emotions that threatened to burst forth. Stepping into an inner chamber, Joseph wept deeply, the tears cascading down his face, bursting forth from the well of pain and profound love. He sought solace, wrestling with the memory of betrayal yet embracing the redemptive work of God in his life. Returning to the brothers, Joseph wiped his eyes and composed himself. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be distressed, nor let it trouble you that you sold me here, for it was God who sent me before you to save lives." He spoke this revelation with the urgency of a prophet. God's hand had prepared this moment long before their hearts had faltered. The brothers fell silent, their faces pale as they wrestled with horror and astonishment, memories of their past portrayed like ghosts before their eyes. Yet, Joseph continued to expound the depths of God's providence. "For the famine has been in the land for 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God has sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance." Tears intermingled with guilt began to appear on their faces. Their human frailty laid bare before the sovereign purpose of the Almighty. Then Joseph regarded them with eyes full of compassion. "What you did, God meant for good," he assured, invoking a deep understanding of divine sovereignty. "Now, go quickly to my father and say to him, Joseph is alive. He is governor over all the land of Egypt." The burden of grief began to lift as the brightness of hope flooded their hearts anew. They embraced one another, weeping and rejoicing in the healing that God had brought forth amidst their brokenness. Yet, a shadow loomed in Joseph's heart, a whisper of foreboding as he sensed that greater trials were still in the future. For he discerned that their journey into Egypt was more than mere survival, it was part of a grand narrative woven by the hands of the Almighty. With each passing moment, the echo of heaven's mystery rang clear: "You are stepping into divine appointment, for nations will rise and fall, and an exodus draws near." Who could fathom the depths of God's wisdom? The time would come when even their deliverance would bring forth the dawn of fulfillment for all humanity. As the brothers gathered themselves, stirred by the revelation of Joseph's identity, the burden they had carried for years now transformed into a mixture of disbelief and hope. The weight of their memories felt lighter, yet the gravity of the future clung to their hearts. They could scarcely process the reality that the brother they had wronged now stood before them as the governor of Egypt. "Come, let us not tarry," Judah spoke, his voice steadfast but still quivering with emotion. "We must return to our father and bring him this great news." The others nodded in fervent agreement, emboldened by the mercy Joseph had shown them. Joseph, observing their renewed spirits, clutched each of their arms. "Before you go, take with you the best of the land of Egypt, and give to my father a gift worthy of his grief. Let him see how God has blessed me that he may rejoice in our reunion." He summoned his servants to prepare carts and provisions. Thus, the brothers departed, laden not only with gifts but with the promise of restored familial ties. As they made their way back to Canaan, the air crackled with excitement and renewed purpose. "How shall we tell him?" Simeon pondered aloud. "What words could convey the truth of our brother's life?" They deliberated among themselves, filled with a radiant energy that seemed to buoy their spirits against the distance ahead. Upon their arrival, the sun set like a crown of gold upon the hills, and the household of Jacob buzzed with anticipation. They entered their father's tent, their hearts racing, and together they faltered at the sight of the aged man in his sorrow. "Father," they cried, their voices mingling, "we have good news to share." Jacob looked upon them, weary yet drawn by the urgency in their tone. "What news could lighten my heart?" he asked. "Joseph is alive," they proclaimed in unison, their eyes flashing with fervent hope. "He is governor over all the land of Egypt." At first, Jacob's heart sank, believing they spoke in riddles. Yet, as they recounted each detail, the food, the abundance, the love of their brother, understanding began to dawn upon him. The disbelief that enveloped him was shattered by the truth that flowed from their lips, and the spirit of joy overtook the sorrow that had long lingered in his heart. "Let me go and see him before I die," Jacob declared, resolution igniting within him, a flicker of life rekindled from despair. Thus it was that Jacob, once a vessel of mourning, prepared to embrace hope anew, guided by the hand of God's providence. Yet amidst this reunion, Joseph remained troubled in spirit, for he understood that this reunion would stir not merely joy but the unfolding of God's grand narrative, a gathering destined to fulfill divine promises made long ago. As the old man journeyed toward Egypt, a glimmer of faith etched upon his path, the Lord whispered to Joseph in a dream. "The heart of your family shall be tested, yet through trials, they will grow. I am not merely bringing you comfort, but setting the stage for a great exodus, for my people shall emerge from the land of their sojourn stronger than they were." And as the stars glittered above, casting their sacred glow over the land, the air thickened with anticipation, God's sovereign plan advancing toward fulfillment, cloaked still in heavenly mystery and divine purpose. What would the future hold for these 12 tribes, shaped in the crucible of trials that were yet to come? The dawn loomed, yet more was to be revealed. Time would unveil the intricacies of God's unwavering hand in their lives. As Jacob and his sons departed from Canaan, an aura of divine anticipation enveloped their journey. The land stretched before them, vast and unknown, yet their hearts beat in synchrony with the promise contained within God's covenant. Glimmers of hope danced in Jacob's eyes as thoughts of Joseph filled his mind. How would he embrace his lost son? Upon reaching the borders of Egypt, they were greeted by a view that unfolded like a sacred tapestry. The breadth of the delta, with its fertile lands and bustling cities, represented all that God had provided to sustain his people. Joseph awaited them, and with each step closer, Jacob felt both fear and joy intertwining in his heart, an echo of Psalms 126 verse 3. The Lord had done great things for them, and their mouths were filled with laughter. When the hour arrived, Joseph came forth, magnificently robed, exuding authority yet radiating a tenderness that could not be disguised. Jacob, recognizing the familiar countenance of his son, cried out, "Joseph! My son, Joseph!" The two ran to one another, and the bond that had been severed was healed by the mighty hand of God. They embraced, and tears of joy flowed freely as the son of Rachel held his father, the patriarch of the tribes, close. "Father," Joseph declared, his voice a mixture of triumph and reverence. "The Lord has brought you here in his grace. Come, and I will show you the place I have prepared for you and your family." And as they walked side by side, Joseph recounted the tale of his journey, how he had endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment, yet how every trial had been a step toward divine purpose, leading to this moment of divine reconciliation. Jacob, filled with amazement, listened intently, the weight of his own past mistakes surfacing, but overshadowed by the grace that Joseph imparted. "It is enough," Jacob breathed, overwhelmed by the mercy of God. "My son, Joseph, is alive. I shall see him before I go to my father's." As the family settled in the land of Goshen, Joseph did not forget the plight of his people. He arranged for Pharaoh to provide for them, illustrating a picture of God's providence still at work. Each day, they found strength in the unity of their family, and with it, the seeds of promise grew. For as God had foretold through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the descendants of these 12 tribes would become numerous, like the stars in the heavens. Yet, amidst the wildlife and the bounty of the Nile, Joseph watched, discerning the undercurrent of trials that lay ahead. God was not through with his people, rather, he was preparing them for a journey that would serve to purify and strengthen them. The shadows of hardship loomed on the horizon, as foreboding yet necessary elements in God's plan, and so, a year turned to years, and the family thrived in Joseph's embrace, but whispers of resistance stirred among the Egyptian leaders. Who are these people? They questioned, puzzled by the growing influence of the Israelites, worrying of their strength. Little did they know, they were merely pawns in God's elaborate design, allowing his promises to unfold. As the curtain began to draw on Joseph's time, a solemn reminder lay beneath the surface: God's sovereignty would ensure that his ancient covenant remained steadfast. The path to redemption lay intertwined with trials yet unseen, a journey that would call forth the strength and resilience of a nation destined for greatness. Yet, as night fell and darkness whispered to the weary, questions lingered in the air. How would they fare in the days to come? Would they embrace their trials as a path towards sanctity, or would struggle become their stumbling block? Amidst these uncertainties, one truth echoed through the ages: God's ways are not men's ways, and in the face of adversity, he weaves miracles for those who seek him. What awaited Israel in the tapestry of time, unknown and yet divinely assured, beckoned the hearts of the faithful to trust. For every shadow carries with it the promise of dawn, his sovereign plan unfolding with glory yet to be revealed. As the years passed, the descendants of Jacob flourished in the land of Egypt, becoming a multitude that filled the land of Goshen. The cries of laughter echoed through their tents, and their flocks increased in number, like the stars that flicker across the heavens. Joseph, now a seasoned leader, provided abundantly for his family, ensuring that no need went unmet. The love shared among the brothers grew deeper still, intertwined with the bittersweet understanding of their shared past. Yet as the sun sets, darkness may loom on the horizon, and hidden shadows dance behind the light. A new pharaoh arose, one who did not know Joseph or the great deeds he had accomplished for Egypt. This new ruler looked upon the Israelites with suspicion and fear, understanding that their strength was a growing threat to his kingdom. Behold, he said to his officials, the children of Israel have become mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply and, in the event of war, join our enemies and fight against us. Thus began the oppression. They placed taskmasters over the Israelites to afflict them with heavy burdens. The cries of the people filled the air like a mournful song, rising to the heavens as they toiled under the weight of slavery. Yet in their suffering, hope flickered still. God had heard their cries, he remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As the burdens increased, the babies born among the Israelites brought joy amid despair. Pharaoh, in his fear, ordered all male children born to the Hebrews to be cast into the Nile, a decree that sent ripples of horror through the land. In this harsh reality, a child was born to the house of Levi, a boy of remarkable beauty and promise. His mother, Jochebed, concealed him for 3 months. Love propelled her to protect him against Pharaoh's decree. When she could hide him no longer, she wove a basket of bulrushes, coated it with tar and pitch, and placed him inside, setting the basket among the reeds by the riverbank. As fate would have it, Pharaoh's daughter came to the river to bathe, and as she saw the basket and opened it, the child cried, and her heart was moved with compassion. This is one of the Hebrew children, she said, a spirit stirred by a maternal instinct, though danger lay in the revelation of its origins. Miriam, the sister of the child, approached boldly, offering to fetch a Hebrew nurse. Nurse this child for me, and I will give you your wages, Pharaoh's daughter declared. Thus was Moses raised by his own mother in the palace of Pharaoh, nurtured in the care of love and wisdom, yet surrounded by the shadow of uncertainty. As he grew, the pool of the Hebrew people, his true identity, thrummed within him. All the while, the Israelites groaned under the weight of their bondage, their hope intertwined with the desperate prayers of an oppressed people crying out for deliverance. One day, as Moses witnessed the injustices of his people, indignation surged within him. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, and in his anger, he struck down the Egyptian, hiding his body in the sand. But the act did not go unnoticed. The words of the crowd carried back to the ears of Pharaoh, inciting fear of rebellion against the backdrop of an already restless nation. Fleeing into the wilderness, Moses escaped to Midian, where he tended flocks, stripped of power yet cloaked in purpose. With the shepherd's staff in hand, he wandered, lost but not forsaken. God had prepared him for a moment that was yet to unfold, hidden in the midst of ordinary life, away from the palace where royalty once held him. Years passed as Moses found a wife and a home in Midian, yet the cries of his people rose untamed before the throne of heaven. And in an encounter destined to change the course of history, God called to Moses from a burning bush that was not consumed. Moses! Moses! came the voice, piercing through the veil of fear and uncertainty. I have heard the affliction of my people, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them into a good end. Large land, a land flowing with milk and honey. In this divine moment, the weight of the world rested upon Moses' shoulders as he stood on holy ground. Yet doubt crept in as he questioned his worthiness, his capability, and wondered what he could do to face Pharaoh. Who am I, he trembled, that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? But God's response echoed deeply within him, I will certainly be with you. It was a promise that stretched beyond Moses' frailty, ignited by divine strength, assuring him that the hand of providence was upon him, positioning him as the very instrument of liberation. The air thickened with purpose, and though the path ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, one thing was certain, God's sovereign plan was unfolding before the eyes of a captive nation, destined for deliverance and exodus that would weave the threads of salvation for generations to come. What awaited the children of Israel at the threshold of their freedom? What would history reveal when God's hand intricately intervened? The answer lingered, steeped in divine anticipation, awaiting the unfolding mystery of God's redemptive narrative.